hey, we brawlin', hey, we brawlin', hey, we brawlin', hey, we brawlin', hey, we brawlin'.
What's up, everybody? We are live, and you are watching another episode of Brawlin' Babes with Brittany. This is a different little episode. I mean, we talked about it on the Fighting Now podcast last week, 2 weeks ago. Kind of hinted at it, but never officially dropped like big news on Brawlin' Babes. But the Fighting Now, Jake and I are teaming up, and we are working together and with the fight community to better our brains. Mental health matters, especially in the world of combat sports and across the athletic communities all the way. And so until we get like an official name and official like music and all those things, we're just gonna hop back and forth between our pages for now. But this is the official episode 1. And I'm super duper excited to have the both of you here with me. I will say it 1,000 times, but time is the one thing that we never get back in this world. So I'm super honored that you guys are here and sharing your time with me today and with the rest of the world. Jake, I want to start with you. Homie, how have you been? How's your week? What's new with you? What's new with the Fighting Now?
I mean, nothing really usual. I've been working all week outside of the fighting now. But as far as the fighting now stuff, we actually have a couple of our fighters getting ready for their big fights. We have Mark Man who's getting ready to fight tomorrow night, and Hannah Lavely who's going to be fighting here next weekend. Everything's been going really good. And of course, I think everybody needs to follow the fighting now because I've been working with MMA tees because we might have some brawling babes with Brittany and fighting now merchandise. I've been working with that for like the last couple of weeks. So make sure you guys follow me. Make sure you guys stay tuned for that because I cannot wait. And I'm very excited to get you to have this one down here on the bottom of your screen to join us because it's going to be a very exciting one.
Oh man, me too. I'm so excited to pick her brain. So if you guys don't know, the viewers watching now and the ones watching later, we have an incredible guest with us. Victoria is not only an athlete and a fighter herself, but she is a licensed therapist, and she's here to share about her journey with combat sports and to kind of I mean, really, I'm just going to pick her brain and try to get, tips and tricks on how to better the thought process, because I know I'm guilty of it. Like once I start spiraling, it just fucking spirals.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get into all that though, I don't really know you, Victoria. I mean, other than a little bit on social media, like I'm very much like a connections kind of girl. You know what I mean? Like I want to know you. I want to know your story. What took you to fighting? Like, why are you fighting? What made you want to do that? Holy crap. Like it takes a totally different person to want to be punched in the face, but especially as a female. So tell me about you.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably so many different avenues I can go down, so I'll have to try to figure out where to start. I guess I'll start how I got into the martial arts and kind of go from there. But growing up, I was always a little bit on the curvy side, got made fun of my weight growing up, and my mom wanted us to kind of be healthy. So I think it was late elementary, early junior high. I started Taekwondo. And so hated it at first, but grew to love the discipline and the friendships and community that came from, being in a martial art, and eventually went all the way, took a few years, but got my black belt, competed at a high level, and just really loved it. But then we moved and got involved in other things in high school. So I stopped being active, and unfortunately, with stress and just poor mental health, which I'll get into a little bit later, but, didn't really take care of myself, didn't really ask for the help that I needed. So I started coping in just unhealthy ways, and comfort food was one of those ways. And so gained a lot of weight throughout high school and into college. And as a young adult, I finally was just fed up. I weighed about 260 pounds and was just miserable. And so really just started to look for ways to get healthy, started focusing on nutrition, but wanted to be active. I tried lifting, but with eating poorly and lifting weights, I was bulking instead of losing. And then, started some cardio kickboxing, trying to get back into martial arts. I found a new Taekwondo school. And as much as I love, the discipline and the art of Taekwondo, I found myself kind of bored with it and wanted a little more. And so the universe aligned for me, and I was introduced to Muay Thai, and I went to a trial class and just fell in love. And so when I started martial arts, it was really just for weight loss and to be healthy, move around, do something fun, and not having to think about like running, which, everybody hates. So wanted to do something a little different. So I got involved in Muay Thai. Never, ever thought I'd be competitive. And then,
why is that though? Why didn't you want to be competitive?
I think, being such a bigger girl, and this, this can be a soapbox for me, like probably for a whole nother hour, but I still am on the heavier side of, women's combat sports. And there's just not a lot of opportunities, or at least that's kind of how I think we're led to believe. Like you have to be 145 or less. And even then 145 weight classes is kind
hard.
There's not a, you're told there's not a lot of women, you have to be 125ers. And I'm like, have you seen this body? Like this
right.
Ever be 125. So I think, at first it was just never, I didn't know it was an option. No one, you don't walk into class and like, okay, are you going to fight one day? It's like, hey, welcome to this community, like move around. And I just made a lot of friends and loved it. And so I started at a gym in Houston, and then the coaches decided to split ventures. And so I followed the more Muay Thai specific coach. And then eventually I moved to North Houston in the Woodlands. And so I ended up at the gym I'm at now. And it was kind of in that transition that I finally was like, you know what, like, let me do a smoker fight. I really like punching people and getting punched. Like, let's see how far I can take this. And in that, it really helped my weight loss journey. And so I'm actually, this year, when I did kind of my more serious smokers, I kind of got to announce that I hit my 100-pound mark. So I fight, and like 160s have kind of been average.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's hard. Like,
yeah.
I feel like traditionally men just lose weight very easily comparatively to women. And that's not true in all cases, obviously, but statistically it is. And holy shit, 100, like,
yeah,
bitch, I can't even get this last fucking 5 pounds off. Like, sorry, I don't like that. I mean that with no disrespect, but
none at all. I totally get. I still feel like I'm stuck, because I'm still like, there's still kind of this stigma that like, if I want more opportunities and more fights, like, we have to look at kind of moving down. And so we're hoping my next fight will be at a lower weight class. I have some great coaches in my corner, a new strength and conditioning coach, weight cut specialist that's really helping me kind of trying to cut some of that weight. But yeah, being a woman in the sport, there's a whole nother science behind our body compositions and all that fun stuff that we get to deal with. And so that's kind of, that's how I ended up kind of getting into Muay Thai. And then from there, once I was at the gym I'm at now, I got introduced to jiu-jitsu. And so I started that a little bit later on. So I've been practicing Muay Thai a little bit over 5 years, started doing smokers, just kind of taking whatever I can get. Like my first encounter was with someone who had, I think she has like 23 amateur fights, but they didn't have a girl my size. So they were like, it's either this or nothing. And I was like, you know what? Like, let's do it. And I've done a smoker fight against a guy who was willing to get in the ring with me. Like, I mean, just in the beginning, there wasn't a lot of options. And then as I've dropped a little more weight and gotten more serious, I've gotten really great matches for my smokers this last year. I've had about 3 that I would consider like real smokers with real opponents that were my size. And 2 of them were Muay Thai. And then I ventured into MMA finally this last November. And it was really fun because I got to accidentally knock out my opponent in the first round in a smoker. So.
How do you accidentally knock out your opponent? Please elaborate.
Because jiu-jitsu is like my secondary art, like I really, really had this game plan that I was like, okay, like I have to push myself to grapple. I know I'm a striker. Like I've done my smokers. I've been doing Muay Thai. I love punching people. Let's take it to the ground. And so working my boxing in my range, and I was just trying to get her to respect, my range so that I could go for takedowns. And just towards that end of that first round, I threw a combo and it just kind of hit her chin perfectly and she fell. And people made fun of me because they were like, you looked really confused. And I was like, I thought they were going to stand her up and we were going to keep going because I was like ready to keep going. And they called it safety and it being a smoker fight. Like, and she was totally fine. She was a great gal to get some experience with. But the first thing I said when I walked out of the cage was, I didn't even get to grapple. Like, that's what I told my coaches. I was really upset. So now I get to tell the story. Like, yeah, I accidentally knocked somebody out. Like, that wasn't the plan. But it makes for a really good story, and it made for a really good reel on Instagram. So I got to do that. But then finally, after, working to make my amateur debut, it's, for a year now, we've been trying to find the right opponent, the right promotion. And in Texas, Muay Thai has been growing so exponentially. And we have a great promotion now, Texas Muay Thai Championships. And so they finally found me a game opponent. And so I made my amateur debut last month at the end of January. And I did come out victorious. So I am a 1-0 undefeated fighter. I'm going to hold on to that.
Congratulations.
So that's, it started off with just community and weight loss. And then it kind of just one goal led to another, which led to another. And, I definitely want to get into this, but like, fighting and just working out in general has helped my mental health so much, and just really made me the person I am today, including like my coaches and having to have hard conversations with them. But mindset is huge. And so just setting those goals for myself, like and now we're okay, one fight down, on to the next. So we're looking at the card in April and we're waiting to hopefully get a matchup for my second fight, and planning on doing a jiu-jitsu tournament exactly a week after that. And then hopefully we'll look at doing an amateur MMA fight after that. So
would you ever box or kickbox or anything?
I'm not. I see boxing, and it's one of those things now that I'm so deep into martial arts. Like I've done some like Aikido, obviously Taekwondo. I try to take things, and I really kind of started to think like I would love to sharpen up my boxing, especially because I actually tend to be a very kick-heavy fighter. I love kicking. And so luckily the coaches that I have at my current gym, they are more MMA style. So they do kind of preach boxing as a fundamental. And so I have cleaned up my boxing a lot, but I think eventually I probably am going to want to look at doing some like boxing classes. And we have like being in Houston, the Houston area, there's just so many awesome gyms and opportunities. And right now my focus has been more strength and conditioning. So maybe after I kind of get a hang of that a little bit better, we'll move on to kind of some boxing fundamentals. And I also want to really get into wrestling, kind of dabbling in my wrestling and building that up. So we'll kind of see where it goes from there.
That's exciting. Well, I'm excited to watch your career evolve and you grow in your combat sports career, no matter what it is you do. I mean, I've got a deep love for boxing and for MMA. I mean, you guys, listen, I'm in the early Victoria phases where I'm like, all right, I need to shed a few lbs. Let me try this class because it's going to hold me accountable. I've been doing it for, I don't know, maybe a month now, right, Jake-ish?
Yeah,
and it's called Final Round Fitness, and I do want to give them a quick shout out. I love this class. Like, I never thought I was like, man, I'll try it just to at least have the appreciation, because I'm a ring announcer as well for a local boxing promotion. And it'll at least give me that, different perspective and appreciation for the athletes that I'm announcing for. At the very least, I'll get that out of it. I was like, but I probably will not like this class. I don't want to be punched in the face. I don't want to punch people in the face. You know what I mean? I fucking love this class. It is so much fun. Coach Adrian Flores and Red Hot Rob are great, man. I am a beginner. I don't know jack shit about fighting other than, as a spectator, like, I can see how they place their feet. That doesn't mean my feet are going to go like that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
a lot of muscle memory you got to really instill into your mind and your body. Absolutely.
You do. Like, and he's telling me, do this, this, and this. And I'm like, wait, hold on. Let me register my brain first to tell my body to do that. I can't just do it. So they're awesome though. They've never made me feel like a dumbass, even though I do feel like a dumbass. You know what I mean? They're always there pushing me, encouraging me. I am loud by nature. So I'm in there grunting, growling. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, fuck you, Adrian. You know what I mean? And he's like, it's okay, Britt, just 5 more seconds. You know what I mean? And he's like, push him. And I can't thank them enough. I love this class. It's been a lot of fun. So if you're in the Denver metro area and you want to try something new that's out of your norm, or just to up your, your workout regimen, this would be a really good fit for anybody, beginner to experienced levels. They have something for everybody, and there's lots of different options. So look up the Final Round Fitness. It's at the House of Pain East. I'm done ranting. I love though, I like the way you say your goals just kind of like evolved. I'm like, fuck, am I gonna fight one? No, I'm not gonna fight one day. No. You never know. I mean, you never say never, you know what I'm saying? But I am definitely not there. But mental health, I've noticed, is a huge factor. I noticed this even before I got so deeply involved in combat sports, just watching interviews with athletes on other podcasts, talking with Joe Rogan, you know what I mean? Like, it really does plague everybody. Like, even who you would think the most confident person in the room is riddled with some kind of mental health, or at some point in their life at least has been, you know what I mean? And I never, as an outsider, I would have never thought that athletes would have the same troubles that, everyday yous and me's do. Yeah. And it just blew my mind. And I've noticed that, be informing some of these close relationships and growing with the community, I've noticed that these athletes can be so physically peaked, and their weight can be on point, their timing can be on point, their precision, their, you know what I mean, their footwork, everything, their game is on point, and they wake up the next morning and just something's off, and it's a mental thing. Everything else physically, they're good to go, and they still think they're good to go, but something's off, and it just fucks their whole game, and then they lose their fight. You know what I mean? You see it time and time and time and time and time and time and time again, and I don't know what it is. I don't know that anybody will ever figure out that moment or what that is that makes you throw off, but it's so true. If you are not mentally there, you won't physically be there. And I'm just so curious as to how, because I'm not a licensed therapist. I have no right to be giving anybody advice or suggest, you know what I mean? But I feel like just on a basic human spectrum, we can all relate to each other, and we can all learn from each other, and we can all grow from each other. So I feel like even though I don't want to share my experiences, or you don't want to share yours, or you know what I'm saying, like, maybe it'll make somebody else's experience easier. And so that's all I really want to do with this platform, whether we, whatever we call it, bettering your brain, mental health matter, whatever we end up calling it, and I felt like, when Jake told me, yo, Victoria, I was like, holy shit, that's perfect. Not only does she know the physical aspects of it, but, being an educated woman and a therapist, you see, you deal, and I'm sure you deal with it like as an outsider helping others, but then on your own level, you're like, oh shit, I did that, and this is why, and this, you know what I mean? You're therapizing yourself. That's not a word, but I made it up, and it works. So, how do we help fighters, mentally? How do we help people? How can we grow and better our brains for the community, Victoria? Like, I don't want, she was only 18. She was just a baby. You know what I mean? And we all have our own issues and our own qualms, but, I don't want anybody to ever feel like they're that alone. And I just thought that you would be a perfect fit to start off our show on bettering our brains, on making not just our physical strengths, manifest, but our mentals as well. What can we do to, whether it be first thing in the morning or at the end of the day, how, baby steps, what do we do to change that thought process?
Yeah, absolutely. First, I'd like to say, like, I'm very honored that you guys asked me to do this. These are literally my two biggest passions, colliding, which I see all the time. My head coach and I joke constantly that there is such a big parallel between therapy, mental health, and fighting. And so I tell him all the time, he will give these antidotes in class, and I'm like, hey, I'm using that with my clients. I'm stealing that. And then, he and I will have conversations about psychology and, how it really does, affect fighters, and both, positive psychology, but then also, us being our biggest enemies within ourselves. And so I'm very honored, and by no means am I an expert. I just happen to be a therapist that loves talking about mental health and giving back, and I love fighting. And so I will do my best to share, but I definitely encourage people, if you are struggling, if you need help, like, please ask for it. There's plenty of platforms, even if there's some financial difficulties, looking for a therapist, you can use websites like Psychology Today. Headway helps with matching providers, if you have insurance that you don't know how to use. There's so many platforms, there's all these text therapy now, just readily available. And so, to kind of answer your question, I think the first thing, and honestly, I think it's the hardest thing, and it's one of the things, like, I really had to learn being in this kind of sport, is we have to be honest with ourselves. I think so many times, like, in this sport, we can very quickly gain an ego, and I can beat anybody up. Like, oh, if that person on the street, like, tries to come at me, like, I'm good, like, I know how to defend myself, like, I'm nailing this technique in class today, I won all my sparring rounds. Like, very quickly, you can kind of get into this mentality, like, oh, I'm winning, oh, I'm better than everybody. And a lot of times we lose focus on ourselves. And so my first tip for people is, you have got to be honest. And there's different ways you can do that. Like, for me, I do better with checking in with people. As a therapist, I see a therapist. Like, I think that's really important, to be checking in with someone who's unbiased and neutral, who is going to call you on your bullshit, and but then, be loving and encouraging, and give you the help that you need. And I love my therapist. I've been working with her for, I think, about 6 years now. So she has seen me through my whole journey. But then my coaches are great at calling me on my bullshit. And so, because my goals were so kind of building on each other, and it was never like going into it with combat sports, like, I had to have these big transitions mentally. And so my last puzzle piece, like, my coach for a long time told me, like, you're ready to fight, your technique is there, you are the most, one of the most consistent people in the gym. I know you guys don't know this, but a lot of my family and friends, they think I'm crazy because I literally work out 2 to 3 times every day. Like, I love working out. So I am constantly in the gym. I'm constantly trying to get better. So it's not the physical part. And so he finally had to sit me down, and we had this kind of hash out, be honest with yourself. Like, you are the problem. You are your own worst enemy. Like, you are the mental block that is getting in your way. Yeah, absolutely. And so I just remember sitting on that bench in our gym, like, just absolutely bawling. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I didn't even realize how much I was getting in my own way. And I had just gotten so caught up in, like, I deserve to be here. Like, I work so hard, and I wasn't really taking into account, like, the what was going on in my head and as a fighter. And so I think having a community to kind of help call you out is really important. Finding coaches and teammates that are not going to just let you push them around and call the shots, but they want the best for you. And so they're going to call you out. And so you can do that externally, but then internally, I will always encourage meditation, journaling, but taking the time to really have questions, whether it's pre-organized, where you buy a journal or you write out the questions, like, wake up in the morning, how am I feeling today? Like, really, truly, like, can I be honest about my feelings and my thoughts? And everyone has intrusive thoughts. Everyone has bad days. But if we try to just continuously push that down, it's going to build and build and build. And with my clients, I always use the metaphor, like, it's like putting a Mentos in a Diet Coke. Like, you screw that lid on and you think it's going to contain, but eventually it all is going to build and build and build until it combusts, and it's going to cause a bigger mess than we wanted it, if we would have just dealt with it when it was a smaller issue. So I think that's the first thing, is really being honest with yourself, whether that's, through help of others, but then doing things to keep yourself accountable, to keep yourself in check. And, I love this because it applies to our mental health and just our daily attitude and mindset. Like, am I having more intrusive thoughts today? Am I being a negative Nancy today? Or, am I being like toxic positive today? Like, there's so many aspects. But then I like this. My coach talks about this a lot, like with our techniques too. Like, did I throw that jab correctly? Did I step off on that kick like I should have? Like, did I land that only because I got lucky, or because I'm actually doing this right? And so I think as a fighter, that's first and foremost, like, checking in and being honest with yourself is the biggest thing.
That's amazing. I couldn't agree more, and a lot of times I find that some days I just wake up in a shit mood, and for no reason. Like, god dang, like, I don't even have a uterus anymore. Why am I feeling this way? You know what I mean? So, yeah, I couldn't agree more. Checking in with yourself and having that community to keep you accountable, and that checks in on you too, that's definitely strong. As far as like training your brain to have those different thought processes, what are good tricks to do, or ways to distract yourself, or to rewire it? A lot of times I feel like, for me especially, and I can only, I know everybody's experiences are different, but for me especially, I feel like once I have that thought, then another follows, then another follows, then another follows. If I don't distract myself or change my scenery, you know what I mean? I have to get out of my head, like literally out of my head. And sometimes to do that, like, it takes, and I get it now, like, I get why fighters fight. Like, for me, it's always been tattoos, but you guys like getting punched in the face. It's totally different, but it's totally the same. And it all boils down, like, I read something the other day too, that extremely hot showers is almost the equivalent as self-harm too. And that's what I feel like. I'll be dead honest. I know that's why I tattoo myself. You know what I mean? It gives my brain the release of the things that I can't control that I can now. You know what I mean? And then I can manifest it and turn it into something beautiful, and it's art I can live with for forever. Is it right? No, but it works for me. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So what are ways that we can like train our brain to think differently so we don't have to have that?
Yeah, so I think there's kind of two different avenues we could go. We can go preventative, which obviously we always want to do the preventative. So anything we can be doing constantly, and there's a couple things we can do there. And then kind of in that moment, okay, like, I'm in the midst of the snowball effect of my negative thoughts, or having a bad day, or just, whatever is going on, with my brain and mental health. So preventative, they used to say that five positive things equals one negative thing, but now the science is coming out that they actually say it's closer to 7 positive things is equal to 1 negative thing. So if you have 1 negative thought, you're going to need 7 to then even just balance it.
Wow.
So I always talk to my clients about it in aspect of like a bank account. And so if you are withdrawing, with these negative thoughts, and you're not depositing the positive, you're very quickly gonna, be in a deficit, and you're gonna be in the negative, and now you're getting all these fees on top because you're overdrafting, and there's nothing there. And so preventatively, we want to be constantly depositing. And so for people, that looks a lot, different. There's a lot of different things, but you want to do things that are going to soothe you, that are going to give you positive hormones. So working out's a great example. Taking a hot bath, a bubble bath. I'm a proponent of tattoos. I think they're beautiful, and they're great art. Doing things that you enjoy, having a good conversation with a friend, sending a text to someone asking them how their day has been, anything that's going to be positive, that's going to then build up your bank account, emotional bank account, so that when we have those negative moments, we're not withdrawing on the negative already, but that we have that pattern. So preventative is really big. But the harder of the two is, okay, I'm still going to have bad moments, bad days. What do I do? And so you talked about rewiring, the brain. And so I joke with my clients all the time. I'm like, listen, this is going to sound crazy. You have to argue with yourself. You have to argue with yourself. You have to have these conversations. And so what I like to teach and talk about is like, essentially you have a thought. Well, if you don't want it, it's an intrusive thought. So we want to label the thought. This is a negative thought. This is intrusive. This is not something I want. This is not how I want my day, to go. And so I'm going to label it, and then I'm going to counter it. I'm going to argue with myself. Oh, you're a shitty person. You know what? No, I'm not. Like, I did this good thing and this good thing, and I'm trying my best. You really messed up today. I'm human. I mess up. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to survive. So, starting to have those arguments with yourself is really that basic beginning of starting to rewire your brain. And so from that, what I often talk to clients about is that over time you get better and better at it. And so then it's quicker and quicker. And then the next thing you know, it's positive thoughts are going to be more automatic than the negative ones, because you just like you have to throw that jab over and over and over and over again to get it right. You have to practice that positive self-talk and those arguments and the labeling of intrusive thoughts, and just telling yourself, like, this is not what I want for myself. Or, if you really need to sit in your feelings, like, that's okay too. You know what? I'm having a bad morning. Okay, this is what I need. I need a moment to sit with these feelings, to process them so that I can move on. So again, it goes back to just being honest with yourself, being able to have those conversations. And then, prevention is key. And then if you have those bad moments, like my number one, argue with yourself.
I love that. Oh my God.
I love that.
I talk to myself all the time. I had a vendor in the store the other day, and he literally walked by me and he was like, "Who are you talking to?" And I was like, "Myself." And yes, I answer back. I'm like, sorry, not sorry.
I'm the exact same way. Every time if I'm at the store and I'm working, it's like there's nobody there. I just talk to myself, and then I have the office people's like, "Who are you talking to?" Myself. And then they just give me weird looks and just walk on by.
Yep, it's so true. That's a lot of amazing information. Jake, what do you got? You want to pick her brain? I mean, I've asked a lot of questions, so let me reel it back and you hang it on, Jake.
Really truly, I think there's always one thing I can always ask is that, there's always a lot of things that people can do as far as going out and doing exercise, but what happens if they decide to sit there and they try to do something at home, but then they get those thoughts, like, for instance, like I used to sit around and just play video games all the time,
Mm-hmm.
but the more that I sit there, the more those thoughts get inside my head. So, what can you do to be able to prevent stuff like that to be able to happen? I mean, could you be able to go and work out? Could you be able to do all these things instead of just doing stuff at home? What could you do?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I don't think it's ever fully preventable. We're all humans. Our brains are their own people. Sometimes, like, we can think we're in control, but literally we have intrusive thoughts. Like, if I tell you don't think of a purple elephant, like, what do? You automatically think of a purple elephant. Like,
Yeah,
our brains are, they do their own thing. So is it ever fully preventable? I don't think so. Like I said, I think there's going to be times everybody has a bad moment. And so I think in those moments, it's important to know your go-tos. I encourage people, have like 3 to 5 things that are a little bit harder. So like things that you would have to like force yourself to do. Working out would be one of those, like where you have to make an effort, right? You have to go somewhere, you have to put on certain clothes. It's a little more difficult sometimes. So you have to kind of have that discipline.
That's where I struggle.
Yeah, absolutely. So having 3 to 5 of your favorite things that are maybe a little more difficult to do, but then having 3 to 5 things that don't take almost any effort at all other than just your brain. And so we'll look at more simple techniques like breathing techniques. So one of my favorite ones that I often use is called box breathing, and it's just simple controlling your breath. You breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds, you breathe out for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds, you breathe it, and it kind of makes that box shape, hence box breathing.
Yeah.
And what that does is if you're not at the point to, have that argument with yourself with thoughts, you can at least trick your brain. And so if you focus on your breathing, if I'm counting how long I breathe and I start, okay, man, I feel my lungs filling up and I feel the sensation and okay, I have to hold it and I'm counting. You're now focused on something else that can then pull you out of the, that moment that you're struggling with. And so breathing techniques, there's a couple of different ones that, you can always get online. They're all over. Grounding techniques, visualizations, closing your eyes, imagining that you're in your favorite safe place or the beach or the mountains, anything that's going to make you feel good. You have to be careful with distraction, right? Like sometimes distraction is a really great thing. Like if it can trick your brain to kind of at least calm down so that you can come back and address the real problem, the root of the problem. But I think a lot of times in our society and culture, we get inundated and we distract ourselves and then we never really come back. And so like video games is kind of on that line. Like it could be good if you come back and deal with the root of the problem. But then I know people who throw themselves into gaming and then they're ignoring, their issues, and then it builds and builds and builds. And then you're going to have that explosion we talked about earlier. Same thing with fighting or exercising. Like some people, like exercising is a healthy thing, but if you're using it as a distraction and you're ignoring the root of your problems, like the root's still going to be there. It's just a Band-Aid, a temporary fix. And I'm sorry, but you're going to bleed out at some point. Like you have to deal with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
So, you can't avoid it completely, but if you're really struggling and maybe you want to working out as one of your go-tos, but you can't seem to get there, start smaller, focus on something you can do right now, focus on your breathing, maybe a little meditation, you put on some calming music, anything that you have at your fingertips, that you don't need much. And then maybe once you're a little more calm and you're like, okay, now I feel good. Now I can go do my other things that I use for coping that then can really help me deal with this.
Yeah. That's very well said because I think a lot of people can really just say that, oh, they just go to gaming just for their distraction. But really and truly, I've experienced this, and I can even tell Britt this, that if you sit in your chair 4 or 5 hours, it's not going to do you any good. It's going to make things worse. And the more you hold stuff in, the worse you're going to be. It's like you're turned to the Incredible Hulk, you're turned to this monster that nobody expects you to be. So I encourage anybody that's watching this right now is that just because you're doing stuff at home, just because you're playing a video game or something like that, it's not going to be the case. When like she said before, if you go to the gym, if you go train, it's going to help you. But at the same time, though, it's that you got to fix the problem. You got to be able to overflow the issues that's happening. You can't keep stuff in. Life's too short to be keeping stuff in these days.
Yeah. And I think that comes back to like, if you need help with that, like just like I think exercise and fighting, like everyone can get involved, whether it's, a more basic level. I actually do some coaching at a local gym, and it's like more cardio kickboxing just for the average person who wants to learn some striking skills and get a good workout in, just like that. Like same thing with therapy. I think everyone would benefit from therapy. So if you're questioning at any point, like find a therapist, like, use the resources, Google, talk to people, if you need help, I do not mind, you guys getting into my inbox and asking what resources are out there. I will do my best, depending on where you're located, to help you find, those connections, to at least search for a therapist in your area. And if there's ever a crisis, I love that they did this, but they have, obviously, if you're going to hurt yourself, like 911 is an option. But they now have the universal hotline in the US that's 988. If you're in emotional distress, if you're in a crisis, call the hotline, 3 numbers, and you can talk to a trained professional that can help. If you're really, really stuck in that moment, there's someone right then and there that can help you. move to the next step. And so my big thing, like, ask for help. Like, I think especially as fighters and humans in general, like, sometimes it's just so hard to ask for help, but you have to ask for help if you need it.
And it boils back down to what you said at the very beginning, is ego. Our ego doesn't allow us to ask for help. We're not, and I struggle with this a lot. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I put so much on myself because I don't like asking for help. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's more like, well, I would do it differently, and in my mind it's better, so I might as well just do it my way the first time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like folding the laundry, for instance. Like, I fucking hate asking for help because my shit's always wrinkled, so just let me do it. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's our ego. We have to ask for help, and whether it be, your closest friend, your closest family member, somebody to just sit there and unbiasedly listen to you just word vomit on them. Like, you're not alone. You have people, somebody in your life that loves you and wants you here and values you. So I love that. We've all got to get our egos in check. I know I do. I was told at a very young age that I had a chip on my shoulder, and I know I'm a very loud and proud kind of person, but I'm pretty fucking humble too. And I, it's never my intention to hurt, I want to live, laugh, and as cliche as it sounds, I just want to live and laugh and love, we got one life, and if you're thinking in terms of light years, it's a really fucking short one. So I say it all the time, I'm not here for a long time, I'm here for a good time. And that little phrase alone has helped trick my brain, like on my shitty days, like, well, why am I gonna let myself stay in this space, like, life is so much bigger than this. So it's amazing that you have helped so many people, not just in combat sports, being a coach and a fighter yourself, but, as a therapist. I'm sure your weight load is heavy sometimes, and that weighs on your mentality. I could only imagine the things that you try to leave at the door but end up coming home with you and is heavy on your heart. And I'm sure that weighs on you too. Like, holy shit, girl, like, how do you do it?
Well, I can tell you, when people ask how I punch so hard, it's because I put all of that into my punches.
That's it right there.
No, I will say, like, I graduated from a great program that really, really helped us learn, like, you have to be able to kind of differentiate yourself, from what your clients are going through. And yeah, absolutely. I've heard some very horrific trauma stories in this room. But more than anything, like, when I have a new client, whether it's a consult or their first session, like, I remind them, like, my goal, like, I want this room to be safe and comfortable and just full of love and understanding. And so I think knowing that like, those feelings are bigger than, the crap that they're coming in with, the shitty things they've experienced in life, like, that just helps balance that. And then, yeah, like, I take care of myself. Like, that is as a therapist, as a fighter, just as a human, like, that's something that's very important to me. I make sure that I get 8 to 9 hours of sleep every night. I get my workouts in, I listen to my body, I'm getting my nutrition in check and making sure I'm eating things that make me feel good. And then, I check in with my therapist. I have an amazing partner that supports me, and, talk to him when I need to, have friends and family that are supportive, my coaches, my community. And when I need a break, I take it. I ask for those breaks. I take time off. Self-care is a very cliche word that's thrown around, but it is so important. And so
it is. Yes.
I make sure to make time for that. And some of the time it really is just showing up to spar and kick the shit out of some people, and then, let them kick the shit out of me sometimes.
Right. And it feels good at the end of the day, like, again, going back to the final round fitness class, I never thought I'd like it, but I am on an endorphin high for 2 days after that class, dude. 2 days I'm feeling great. Like my body might feel wrecked, but mentally I feel fucking amazing. Holy shit. So that's, yeah, I agree, you know, and I get it now why fighters are fighters. They're all dealing with something, every single one of them. I really want to talk to, a good friend of mine, he's a coach and a trainer and a fighter. He's coming back on February 18th. Red Hot Rob, I mentioned him earlier. He's been through some shit, man, and he has found his release is in his writing. He's found, you know, a voice and a passion, not just in boxing but in writing, and he's written some incredible things. I'm going to work with him and we're going to try to get him published because he deserves that, really and truly. So we're going to have him on because he's got some great stories. It would be one that you would definitely want to listen to, Victoria. He's a great guy.
Absolutely. I love hearing people's stories.
Yeah, he's good dude, man, and his writings are phenomenal. So I'll keep you posted. I'll send it to you just so you can get a little peek at it. But
please do.
Well, I don't know what else to ask. You've covered so much for us today. You've been so helpful and so informative. If you had one thing that you needed to share and let the world know, what would it be?
You know, I think I'm going to go with this. It's so funny. It keeps popping up for me, and it ended up being the front of my fight shirts. I had fight shirts made, and it's as simple as keep going. Like, I love the semicolon movement, and I put that, like, I have my tattoo, my semicolon, and if, you know, you're not familiar, you can look it up for the meaning, but essentially it's, your story doesn't have to end. There can be a pause and a comma. You add the comma instead of a period, and you keep going. And it is a mental health movement, but I chose to put it on my fight shirt because I think it's just the same thing in everything we do. Like, you know, when we're training, when we're working out and we're tired, and it's just like, okay, like one more rep, one more round, you know, one more workout, keep going. This doesn't have to be
one more day.
Yeah. So I think
I love that.
That's kind of been my go-to message. And it's funny because since then I literally will see the phrase everywhere, and that's, you know, keep going, you know, whether it's your mental health and you feel like you're about to give up, keep going. If you're in your combat career and you're struggling to get a fight or you're not sure what's next, keep going. You're struggling in your workout, keep going. Like, don't give up, keep going, and finish writing your story. Like, I love people's stories. Like, you know, I'm totally cool. Like, send me your stories. If you have questions, like, hit up my inbox. You know, I know we talked about possibly doing future episodes, and I can talk forever about pretty much anything. I love talking. So if the audience has questions specifically about mental health that they would love for me to kind of answer in the future, like whether it be commenting on the links or, you know, messaging any of us, like, please ask. I will do my best to answer and to, like I said, provide any of those resources. But yeah, keep going.
Keep going. I love that. That's the perfect way to end it. You couldn't have done it any better. You're phenomenal. I'm so, can we like air hug? Oh,
I love it. You guys are awesome, and you know, really I appreciate that you guys are building this platform, because I think it's so important for anybody, but you know, I love that we can specifically focus on fighters and people who are just trying to get healthy. So thank you guys for doing this and for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And we'll stay in touch. Let's create like a little group chat or whatever. Yeah. We'll stay in touch and we'll talk about, you know, schedules and you know, I don't know if it'll be weekly, monthly, but you know what I mean? But we'll figure something out. I would love to have you back as much as possible, and you know, just to kind of touch basis and go over the latest, you know, issues or the latest, you know, remedies or whatever it may be, you know. I'm here for it. I love the energy. I love the information. I love the care. So, yeah, let's do this, man. Let's rock and roll.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I do have one final thing I want to tell Victoria, and this is something that really, really caught my eye because when I first saw your shirt, you talked about the semicolon and everything, and Brittany, if I was you, I'd put this on me because this is something that I thought about, and this is what I put up on my wall here, is that this is something that we are all are every single day, is that we are all warriors. It doesn't matter if you're a fighter, if you're a non-fighter, you fight with so many of these different mental issues that we go through. So I want everyone, you girls, everyone that's watching this, know that you are all warriors at the end of the day. So please keep going. You have sins to keep doing. You have a life to be able to live for. So just remember, you are a warrior.
Absolutely, you are. You are a warrior, and with the semicolon there, your story is not over. Not at all. We all want you here, and we want to be a part of the story, you know. So let's make a story together. We've
Let's
got
do it.
a watcher here, Wesley Kill Eagle Jr. He's out, I believe, in Montana. He does the Kill Eagle promotions. That they do MMA, bare knuckle, all of it. Small promotion on a reservation, I believe. And he says that they're doing an anti-bullying seminar on April 1st in Dodson, Montana, to try to give their youth some self-confidence and hopefully stop our suicide epidemic on our reservations. Wesley, that is incredible. I know he does a lot of charity work through his promotions. They focus a lot on mental health and, um, children's cancers and things like that. Wesley at Kill Eagle, they really they kill it out there at Kill Eagle. So kudos to you, Wesley. Let us know how we can be involved, how we can help. Send us the information. That way we can all share it. Like
Yeah.
we're all a family, we're all a team here, and we're all growing together. So whatever we can do, Wes, let us know. Um, but other than that, I don't have anything else for you guys. Jake, you got anything else for Victoria?
All I can say is, though, is that it's been an honor to get a chance to have you here. It's also been an honor to get a chance to have you part of the fight now. I was so amazed by the person you are, not only inside the ring, but also outside the ring with your fight shirts and everything. And this is something I do in all my interview stuff, but it's like, we're not worried to get a chance to have you here. We're not worried to get a chance to have such an amazing soul like you are. So the only thing I gotta tell you is just keep going. You're shining the light to those that need it. It's so beautiful. We definitely got to make it like a group chat because we all need to stay in touch because it's not easy. It's not easy for us to be able to go through this life that we live in. But my last thing I want to say to you is I'm so proud of you of the fighter you are, and I'm also proud of you of the person that you become. So thank you for joining us. It's been a blessing.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate that.
Oh, hell yeah. Is there anything else that you want to end it on? Any final words? Any shout outs to your gyms? Any sponsors you work with? Anything like that? Anybody, you're more than welcome to give them their time.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I got a lot of support for my first fight and super grateful. I think I ended up with like 10 sponsors, and I even had coaches, pro fighters. They're like, "You got this many sponsors for your first fight?" I'm like, "Yeah, is that not normal? I don't know." But yeah, absolutely. So again, I'm in the North Houston area. I train out of two gyms, Gracie Baja, the Woodlands, and then Sammy's Muay Thai in Spring and in the Woodlands. So shout out to those gyms and all those coaches there, Coach Matt, Coach Alex, Coach Sammy, and my strength and conditioning coach, Spencer Sled, awesome dude, also a fighter in this area. And then, yeah, some of my sponsors, one of my biggest ones is actually Yonks. I have the shirt on today, this local supplement store. But then also just friends and family. I think we have Ion Welding. That was a sponsor. Greenlight Movers, the Woodlands Yoga Studio. Love yoga for mental health. That's definitely something people should look into.
Agreed.
Reach Stretch Studio. I know I'm forgetting a bunch, but yeah, I'll you guys put me on the spot, but next time I'll definitely have my list of shout outs, but definitely really appreciate the platform and yeah, just everyone who's shown me love and support. I'm gonna try to give back any way I can. So thank you guys for allowing me to do that.
Hell yeah, right on. All right. Well, on that note, I'll close this out. I think you'll appreciate this, Victoria. I don't know if you've read it. As a Man Thinketh.
Mm.
Have you read this yet?
Not, but I'm always looking for books to add to my list.
You'll love it. So, in the chapter called Thought and Purpose, on page 25, it's a very short book, very small. I read it in just today, but I said, holy shit, I'm going to end the show with this. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. Lay it on
And
me.
I apologize because I'm going to get really nervous, so I might like stutter or slur or something, but just bear with me. The weakest soul, knowing its own weakness and believing this truth, that strength can only be developed by effort and practice, will, thus believing, at once begin to exert itself, and adding effort to effort, patience to patience, and strength to strength, will never cease to develop and will at last grow divinely strong. As the physically weak man can make himself strong by careful and patient training, so the man of weak thoughts can make them strong by exercising himself in right thinking. To put away aimlessness and weakness and to begin to think with purpose is to enter the ranks of those strong ones who only recognize failure as one of the pathways to attainment, who make all conditions serve them, and who think strongly, attempt fearlessly, and accomplish masterfully.
Beautiful.
Amazing.
It's all in your brain, man. This is a great book. It's all about the power of thought. As a Man Thinketh, my cousin Jeff recommended this book to me. We had a little it was a girls' night out, but he's a dude. And I don't really have girlfriends, you know what I mean? I got like one girlfriend. But and we didn't even go out. Like, we just stayed in, smoked a couple joints, and he recommended a couple of good books, played the piano, and I felt rejuvenated, you know what I mean? I needed the mommy time out. So I read this book today at work, and I said, holy shit, this is so perfect. It's completely about the power of thought and the power of your mind. You know, as quickly as we can spiral down, we can spiral ourselves back up. I really recommend this book if you can, you know, it takes a little bit to process, and I'm going to read it for a second time, you know, like it's pretty philosophical and in depth. But it's a phenomenal little book. It's 40 pages, you know what I'm saying? Like, $5 on Amazon, go order it. As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. I think it'll really open your eyes to a lot of different avenues and thought processes. But anyway, that's all I got. I'll close this out. I've always got to thank my team, because without the team, it's only a dream. So, Jake, I'm so grateful that you said yes to this project and that you're here with me and we're doing this together. I think there's strength in numbers. Again, to you, Victoria, thank you so very much for your time and your knowledge. I said it in the beginning and I say it every time. It's the one thing we don't get back. So thank you for sharing your time with us. Also, Dave Trujillo and the All Angles Boxing and Combat Sports channel for this platform. My promoter, Steve Mestis, and Airtight Boxing. We've got 2 huge shows coming up on the 18th and the 25th here in the Denver metro area. So stay tuned for those. Also, Den City Plumbing and Construction. 970-467-5258. They are qualified in all of the areas and been in the industry for 12 plus years. Super trustworthy guys. Nick Sampson at hkausa.com. He has the right gear you need to dominate your lifestyle. He's got gloves, mitts, shin pads, headgear, anything you need. He can customize your fight gear too. If you want like the fancy fight outfits, whatnot. He can hook it up over at hkausa.com. And then also the Donnybrook.com. He is my digital media guy, dude. Like, he's going to be, once we get the idea and we get it to him, he's going to create our logos for us and everything. He also has, though, a bare knuckle memorabilia website as well as online shop. So feel free to look him up. That's Michael over at the DonnyBrookCo.com. And then last but not least, sorry, it's a long one, you guys, but the Southern Pit Barbecue Food Truck, another great guy out here in the Denver Metro. He's available for large or small caterings. The number's below. That's it for me. That's it from Jake at the Fighting Now. And then Miss Victoria. You guys all have a wonderful evening. It's been an honor chatting with you. And we'll do it again soon.
Looking forward to it.
All right, y'all. Have a great night.
Night, guys.
Bye.
Bye.